My name is Brandon Buckner, and I am back once again with the College Sport Report here on E Radio WMCR. As mentioned, this is episode 5 of the College Sports Report. And when I last was on the air, we talked about college coaches and NFL coaches not wanting to wear their masks during football games. I also discussed some college sports news and notes that seem to be very helpful as we are now in the month of October. You know what that means? It's Halloween month. Yes, kids of all ages who would like to go out and trick or treat. And I mentioned this last time on my show. Listen, COVID-19 is still around, so you might want to think about staying home and buying your own candy, and then just dressing up in your house, whether you and your friends want to zone a movie together, or have snacks together. You might just want to go to the store buy your own candy because going door to door to people's houses. You don't know if they have COVID. You don't know if people that are giving you candy have COVID. I just saw on the news. It was real interesting to see a candy a candy machine that you put candy and it slides down a tube and it goes directly into the kids' trick or treat baskets. That is cool. I might think about doing that, but maybe not. Listen, as I said, this is also a Harvest Fest month. People like to get out, go to Harvest Fests. You can't do that right now. COVID-19 is still around, and you're gonna have to think about twice about what you're gonna do for Halloween or for harvesting for Harvest Fest. I like to drink good old hot apple cider during festive seasons like this because it makes me think about harvest and the leaves changing on the leaves and just the whole holiday changing. And we head into October, November, and December, even Christmas time. We think about that a little bit later though. But without further ado, let's get started with the college sports report for another week, shall we? So, my first story. Anyone who knows anything about both college football and COVID-19 realized this season was going to get messy. And now officially it is. Messy because the thought of playing through the pandemic forced us to realize there was no good answer. It didn't really feel right to ask unpaid athletes to play through a pandemic like professionals. But at the same time, it didn't really feel right to stop them if they wanted to, especially when a lost college football season after a lost March Madness season would have resulted in lost programs, scholarships, and jobs for college athletes. It's messy because logistically, the notion of football players and coaches not getting and giving a wildly contagious airborne virus to one another was as unrealistic as the assumption college students were not going to pass the virus around like a beer pong ball when campuses around the country repopulated it. So the virus doesn't care whether it crashes a fraternity party or a football practice. People seem to forget that. Regardless of the chaotic landscape college football looks out upon this weekend is concerning. The SEC, the predominant league in the sport, and the one most dedicated to seeing through this season, finds itself in an undesirable position. It postponed due to COVID outbreak among Gators. And quite frankly, the SEC enters today with a game between Missouri and Vanderbilt postponed due to a COVID outbreak among Commodores. A game between Florida and LSU postponed due to a COVID outbreak among Gators. And the biggest game of the weekend, and perhaps the season, number 3 Georgia and number 2 Alabama, overshadowed by the news that both legendary Crimson Tide coach Nick Saban and his athletics director Greg Bryan have both tested positive for the COVID-19 virus. Of course, the second test came back negative for Saban, so who knows? Right about now, we have been the perfect time for conferences that elected not to play this fall to stand up and announce at the SEC's expense that they were not the alarmists their critics claimed. The problem for those conferences, however, is that they caved and wrote out plans for a fall season. Plans that included no open weeks to reschedule games postponed for COVID-related reasons. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 can't be looked down at the SEC, not when they're just looking ahead at their future. So the SEC's football slogan is, "It just means more." That's very true now. The football conference's recovery from this COVID stiff arm, or lack thereof, was sending ripples across the college sports landscape. There isn't a conference that will fight harder and dedicate to more resources to moving forward than the SEC. Will it keep football on the field? If it tries and fails, what will work? Another question, is this working? So all those questions, college sports fans, that you want answers to, and I can give you, but colleges can give it to you more if you continue to just look at the college rankings. Look at the college rankings. Look at the news. Look at the college news. So many people we talk about pro sports a whole lot, but are we even looking at what college is doing with COVID? Are we looking at what fans are doing? Are we looking at what the SEC, what the NCAA is doing? No, we're not. We're not focusing on that. We're focusing on pro baseball playoff season. NFL is back in full swing. The NBA, the Lakers just won the title. We have new Stanley Cup champions, which I'll get to later in the show. But think about it. We don't think about NCAA. We don't think about SEC's football slogans. We don't think about what it truly means to be a college football fan. See, my show this semester, I'm trying to bring you all to attention, bring you all to a world where it's different. Sports are different. With this COVID-19 stuff, you really don't know. So this is why I'm bringing you college football instead of not pro, because everybody know what pro did. Everybody know pro finished their season up in Orlando. But you gotta know what college is doing. That's the only way to figure out the problem that we're having in terms of listening to college sports on the radio, on the drive home, or out where we went to go, maybe pick up something to eat, or, because we can't, restaurants have opened up, but we can't just go inside and, go to the sports bar, and we just can't be normal people because we got to always have our masks on. But the masks are to keep you safe. And last week when I talked about on the College Sports Report about coaches not wearing masks, well, Nick Saban and Greg Bryant, they found that out firsthand when they tested positive for the virus. But a second test came back negative. So you also have to look at these things. It's sports material that I'm giving you each week on my show about college. And yeah, I might talk a little bit about pro, but I'm mostly focusing on college this season. So listen, the problem for those conferences, however, is that they caved and wrote out plans for a fall season. Plans that included no open weeks to reschedule games postponed for COVID-related reasons. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 can't look down at the SEC, not when they're just looking ahead of their future. The SEC's football slogan is, "It just means more," like I just said. That's very true now. The football conference's recovery from this COVID stiff arm or lack thereof will send ripples across the college's sports landscape. There isn't a conference that will fight harder and dedicate more resources to moving forward than the SEC will to keep football on the field. If it tries and fails, that will work. But another question is this working? So will this work? Will college sports returning this fall, will it work? Will we get back the college teams that we like to listen to, that we like to watch on television on a regular basis? Let's find out. The postponements created by Florida and Vanderbilt pushed a number of COVID-related postponements in football bowl subdivision games to 30 plus. That means for every team taking the virus seriously, there was another taunting it, mistaking good luck for proof a season won't be slobber-knockered by an outbreak. The latest example should have raged SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. And Florida coach Dan Mullen was whining about his stadium not being able to hold as many fans as other venues, while the Gators were on a road trip that included players who had not reported troubling symptoms. Listen to me. Listen, Coach Dan Mullen. Stop being worried about the fans not coming to the games. See, this is what coaches don't get. They want fans, but the fans have to stay 6 feet apart. They cannot be bunched up like it was last year before we had the outbreak, where people were just like they could be around each other. They can put their arms, when they do at the games where they do the wave. You can't do that no more. You can't do that because you can have coronavirus on your hand. In the palm of your hand, you can have coronavirus. Simple as that. So with the sports world and everything today, we just don't know. It's going to be a shaky one for college. Including the NFL even had some positive tests. I think it was the Patriots Broncos game last Monday that was postponed to this Sunday. But games in the NFL and college is a little different because you got actually grown men playing NFL. You got college students playing the college games. You got the grown men playing the NFL games, but you still gotta be safe. So Sankey and SEC athletic director spent a lot of time this week reminding us the league was prepared for something like this. It's why the stretch testing facility policies are in place. It's why programs that operate outside the league's rules could be penalized through conference dollars withheld. It's why open weeks were backed into the league only schedule. It's time to be the right combination of flexible, diligent, and calm all at once. It's time to find out if the SEC can get up and press on. A college sport during the pandemic was always going to be messy. But if it gets so messy, the SEC can't help but punt. That's big in a bad way. It just means more, indeed. So, yeah, college sports have been back in full swing since the later month of September. So, you got to think about, can college sports continue? Can their season continue? Can the NFL season continue? Well, these are the questions I will have for you as my show goes on in the coming months and weeks for you all. Moving on now. So, the pandemic has caused universities and colleges across the United States to cancel or postpone sports seasons. Some schools have cut college sports programs altogether, forcing college athletes aspiring to compete in the Olympics to reconsider their dreams. So most of the cuts have taken place in programs that direct athletes to U.S. Olympic teams, possibly impacting America's participation in the international sporting event. Colleges cut sport. The director of college partnerships for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, Sarah Willem, told NBC News that the college system is an absolute lifeline for our Olympic development teams. The website for the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCCA, reinforces this idea, highlighting how over 80% of the U.S. national team competed in college before gaining entry into the 2016 Summer Games. However, many colleges released announcements detailing the postponement, downsizing, or cancellation of sports activities and programs. For example, on July 8th, Stanford University announced the discontinuation of 11 of its sports programs at the end of the 2020-21 academic years, including fencing, field hockey, synchronized swimming, and wrestling. 2 months later, on September 3rd, the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, announced the wrenching decision to discontinue 7 varsity sports after the 2020-21 academic year, impacting 118 student athletes and 13 coaches. On September 10th, the list of college teams cut because of COVID-19 has surpassed over 230, according to a tally by the Washington Post. Now, funding sports programs, alumni networks around the U.S. are scrambling to save sports programs. Since the College of William and Mary's announcement, student athletes, their families, and alumni raised more than $1 million for the cut sports. Dartmouth College's swimming and diving teams also released a petition to raise awareness about their situation. And a group of University of Iowa alumni parents and athletes developed a plan and raised $3 million to try to save the schools for discontinued sports. So sports and social distancing, the NCAA announced in August that it will only support moving forward with fall championships and other postseason play if strict conditions are applied and adhered to. Each division must safeguard the well-being of their student athletes, as well as their scholarships and eligibility, the NCAA mentioned. So yeah, keeping students safe with this pandemic is very good because your saving a lot of money. And the Olympics, telling college